This tank was purchased by the grandpas for my son. I got a 7-gallon cylinder for my daughter's room, which, long story, is now next to my side of the bed, and she now has a 30-gallon rimless aquarium. Gorgeous, looks like art. That will be covered in a separate video. But the grandpas figured that she needed, or my son needed a fish tank as well. This is the one he ended up with. Very cool design. Thin glass with a bullnose front. So there are pros and cons to this one. I love the design. I love the bullnose front. But there are drawbacks to the bullnose front. For one thing, it's glass. I like that it's glass. But as you look around the glass on the front, because it's glass and because of how it was made, it looks a little bit, it distorts what you see a little bit, kind of like looking through a lens, which is to be expected. But I do think it has a very high-end look to it. Another thing about the design of this tank, I like how the mess is in the back. How the pump is on one side, it blows all the water through. I also have a wave maker that's a whole different thing. I got that because there's an anemone in here. But it blows it around. It's a bullnose front. The water flow goes around the front of it, and then it gets sucked in the other side. It goes through the protein filter, which was included, and is pretty nice, through the media, through the filter, and then it goes into where the pump is, which is where also the heater is, and then the cycle continues. I love how all of that mess you don't even see in the tank. It's a blacked out back, so you don't see it when you're looking at the fish. All you see is fish and water moving, and it's gorgeous. I think it was 12 gallons, which is pretty small. I do have 2 clowns in here. I know I'm gonna have comments in the about how the clowns are gonna overgrow the tank. I'm aware of that. I'll deal with it when that happens. But it's basically just a mini. It's like a mini coral reef tank with what I have growing in there. And also, like I said, there's a long tentacle anemone in there. And they've been in there for months and are thriving. I also have a Halloween crab and a blue knuckle crab. They may get moved because I think that's just a little bit too much stuffed in there. They might get moved to the 30-gallon tank in my daughter's room. But as far as the tank's construction, all the corners look good. The top looks good, but it's a little bit not consistent. I noticed it when I got a lid made for it. Now, it did come with a lid. The lid was acrylic, which was a disappointment because the rest of the tank is glass. So initially, day 1 looked fine. Day 2, it was seriously this quick. The tank had warped and twisted, and it didn't fit on there flat. It looked cheap. So if you're going to buy this tank, I would either plan on having a tank that does not have a top on it, which is fine. I think it looks great without the top because it's rimless, or plan on having glass made. It does come with the clips, so all I have to do is take in that acrylic piece to any glass maker, have them cut it, and then it'll fit in. But the top reveal is not consistent, so it might drive you nuts. I think it's fine, but let's keep that in mind. The glass that I got for this top is I think it's 3/8 glass. For my daughter's tank, it's 1/2-inch glass. But this one's such a short span that we just went with the same kind of thickness that the tank itself has. The 30-gallon rimless tank that we have is a thicker glass, so it matches better. As far as the light goes, it's not a very sturdy light. It bends around, but it's a light that will keep corals alive. The corals that are in here, now granted I have green star polyps and a few other like mushrooms and stuff, and also the anemone. It's kept all those alive. Those are all pretty hardy, but it is a light that stuff will grow with. It's not like a cheap, just an LED that just does different colors. It's a reef light. It's a halfway decent reef light. So it's basically everything you need in the box, which is nice. Now, I would have liked to have seen thicker glass, and it would have been cool if the top was also glass, because you can get a glass top made, and because of the curves and everything that's going on, that piece might, depending on where you are, could cost you $100 for a fish tank lid. I think I paid like $70 $70, something like that, maybe a little bit less. But the half-inch glass on the 30-gallon was much more. Another thing to keep in mind that this one is just at an angle on the dresser. Because of its depth, it doesn't fit the long way, which is how I wanted it on the dresser. As with the 30-gallon cube tank that we have, I have in the works a side project to make a specific table for this one with wheels, beefy wheels, with a concrete top on it in case there's any spills, and then either a maple or a red oak base that will be at head height for next to the bed. So this will be basically on a nightstand. This is a long-term plan. I'm hoping to get started on this in the next few months. We'll see. So that it's on my right next to my, so it's like what he looks at as he falls asleep is basically a coral reef with critters crawling around in it. This one is a bit overstuffed with crabs, and the clowns are they're good size now, but if they grow, they may have to be moved. We'll see. But I do frequent water changes and I'm meticulous as far as the care in it. I think the shape of the tank with the bullnose front gives it a little bit of an elegant look versus just a standard rectangle. Those are also cool, but I like that because it has the bullnose front, you don't really see the corners. It's a little bit more of a blended look to it. I wish the capacity was more like 20 gallons or so, maybe a little taller, maybe a little bit wider. But 12 gallons is fine. It's good for my son's room. Like I said, this is going to end up next to his bed. I think it's a good size for a nightstand. But as I had said, probably either need to be a deep nightstand or a custom-made nightstand, considering how deep it's going to be. Again, it's splitting hairs. Would have been cool if the reveal around the lid, and to be clear, I am sure that the lid is straight and consistent. I wish the tank was a little bit more consistent, but it is glass. I'm sure it's not easy to work with. I have no idea how these things are made. I'm sure it's not easy. And also, like I said, this is me splitting hairs. But the overall look of it is cool. Packaging that it came in was very, very secure. No issues with the delivery or anything else. So, in short, I strongly recommend checking it out, considering it. Let me know what tanks that you guys have in your houses in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys next time.